Today, we're jumping into a story by the legendary author Ruskin Bond. It's one of those tales that seems so simple on the surface, but when you look closer, it's about how one single object can ripple through a whole community and show you who people really are. All right, let's get into it. So, at its core, this is basically a modern fable. You've got three main players: a young girl named Binya, a kind of lonely shopkeeper, Ram Bharosa, and an object that just turns everything upside down: a bright blue umbrella. And what starts as just a pretty thing to own becomes a huge symbol for desire, for envy, and in the end, for kindness. So, to really get the impact of the story, we first have to get to know our main character and the world she lives in. Let's start with Binya. Binya is through and through a child of the mountains. She's only about 10 years old, living this quiet life in her village. Her days are pretty simple, you know? She's out with her cows, Nilu and Gori, and she is just completely comfortable in her world. The book says that for her, dark forests and lonely hilltops held no terrors. She's as much a part of that landscape as the trees are. Now, in this simple world, Binya has one small treasure, something that connects her right to the wild nature all around her. It's a pendant, and it's made from a real leopard's claw. It's her lucky charm, a piece of her mountain life. And this one little object, well, it's what kicks off the entire story. And this is where everything changes. Binya runs into some tourists from the city, and a trade happens. And it's such a symbolic trade when you think about it. It's her world versus theirs, her wild, natural piece of the mountains for this beautiful, perfectly manufactured object from the city. And with that one exchange, this blue umbrella enters the village, and it immediately becomes so much more than just an umbrella. It becomes this object of intense desire. Binya is just completely captivated. The story says it's like the umbrella cast a spell over her. She is so obsessed with it that she carries it everywhere she goes, and she never closes it, not even for a second. Doesn't matter if it's sunny or raining. It's not about keeping dry. It's a part of her now. It's her pride and joy. So, pretty quickly, the umbrella becomes the talk of the town, and it starts to create this little rift. The kids, they all love it. They think it's the most beautiful thing they've ever seen. But the adults, their admiration is mixed with a little bit of envy. They're all thinking, how on earth did a poor girl like Binya get her hands on something so fancy? And all that envy starts to build, and it really finds a home in one person in particular, the local shop owner, Ram Bharosa. For Ram Bharosa, that umbrella becomes a total obsession. His want for it just grows and grows until it completely takes him over. You can see his morals just slowly eroding. First, he tries the simple route, offering Binya free candy for it. She says no. So then he gets a little sneakier, trying to bribe her brother. When that doesn't work, his greed pushes him over the edge. He hires a kid to just straight up steal it. But the plan totally backfires. The thief gets caught, and he immediately spills the beans that Ram Bharosa put him up to it. And the fallout is swift and absolute. The whole village finds out what he did, and they just turn their backs on him. So he doesn't get arrested or anything like that. His punishment is, well, it's social. And in a small village, that can be way worse. Nobody comes to his shop anymore. He's completely cut off. The book puts it really well. It says he suffered the tortures of greed and the despair of loneliness. His desire for this one object cost him his entire community. And this brings us to the story's big turning point. The focus shifts away from Bharosa's greed and onto Binya's really surprising reaction to his misery. You know, you'd think she'd be celebrating, right? She won. But instead, she just feels this deep empathy for him. She starts to think it's her fault he's so miserable. I mean, if she never had the umbrella, none of this would have happened. And she feels so bad that she actually starts closing her beautiful umbrella whenever she walks past his empty shop, almost like she's trying to hide the source of his pain. And this is the question at the absolute heart of the story. She looks at this lonely old man in his empty shop, and she has to ask herself, is my favorite possession in the entire world more important than another human being's happiness? Is an object, no matter how amazing, worth more than a person? And the answer she comes up with is so simple, but it's just so powerful. She realizes that the umbrella isn't what makes her truly happy. Her family, her village, the mountains, that's her happiness. She realizes an umbrella isn't everything. So what does she do? It's this beautiful, quiet moment. She walks into his shop to buy a single piece of candy. And he's totally shocked, even a little suspicious. But she pays her coin, takes the toffee, and as she walks out, she just leaves the blue umbrella leaning against his counter. It's a gift, an act of total forgiveness. And that one simple act, it's like a domino effect. It changes everyone. Ram Bharosa goes from being this lonely, greedy guy to being joyful and generous. The village, they see Binya's act of forgiveness, and they move from shunning him to forgiving him. They become a community again. And Binya, she goes from being possessive of an object to being truly at peace with her world. And the healing starts almost right away. Ram Bharosa is happy again. He proudly carries the umbrella. And seeing this, the villagers take their cue from Binya. They start to let go of what happened, and they begin coming back to his shop. His business and his place in the community is restored. So, in the end, what is this whole story about a blue umbrella really trying to tell us? What's the ultimate gift here? And the story just comes full circle in the most perfect way. Ram Bharosa, a totally changed man, he finds a bear's claw, which is considered even luckier than a leopard's. He has it made into a pendant, and he gives it to Binya. Kindness inspires more kindness. He repays her generosity, not with something from the city, but with a real treasure from the mountains, something that truly belongs in her world. And that really brings us to the big takeaways. The story shows us that real value is in people, not in things. It's a warning that envy, it just leads to being alone. But the most important lesson, I think, is how powerful forgiveness can be. In a small village like Binya's, being a community isn't just a nice idea, it's everything. Her act of kindness healed that community, and it proves that being a hero isn't about some huge, grand gesture. It's about the small, kind choices we make every single day. And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. The story makes it pretty clear that Binya's greatest possession was never the umbrella. It was her ability to be kind. So maybe the question we should ask ourselves isn't what's the nicest thing we own, but what's the kindest thing we own? Thanks for watching.